Hello friends, this is Miss Kate from the Wando Mount Pleasant Public Library with another episode of Goosebumps and Gore. So today's book is Wanted, the Haunted Mask. It's actually two horror stories in one book, but by the end of the book you'll see how they're connected. It was also based on a 20-year-old classic that maybe your parents remember reading, called The Mask, but this one is Wanted, the Haunted Mask. The book begins by explaining the legend behind the mask, the evil mask. It has an evil spell so that when you put it on, you cannot take it off. 40 years later, a little girl at a Halloween party discovers the mask in a trunk, and what does she do? Of course, she puts it on, and she can't take it off, and it starts making her act really strange. And she destroys her friend's party. She runs out of the house and scares the trick-or-treaters and even destroys a car. So during the night, she runs into this really strange man who tells her the only way to get the mask off is to perform one act of kindness. Well, she can't. She wants to be kind, but the mask is making her do horrible things. So the other part of the story is about her friend who is working on a pumpkin farm, strangely, and he's also having some pretty terrifying moments. He is hearing his name whispered in the wind at night. The pumpkin vines are starting to look like they're coming alive, and he's being stalked by a black cat with these red glowing eyes. So how do these two characters get out of their predicament? Will the girl get the mask off? Read the book to find out. Don't forget to check out our digital collections. Classic Goosebumps and new titles are available on Hoopla in audiobook format. Now I'm going to show you how to put your head in a jar. This is a fun trick that you can do at a Halloween party or to scare your brother, your sister, your friends, or even your parents, if that's okay. So here is what you need to do the head in the jar prank. So take a picture. You need a jar, food coloring, water, and some way to laminate the paper so that it doesn't get too wet in the jar. So what you're going to do is, if you're working with a digital picture, you're going to maybe try to distort the image by clicking and dragging, but you want to measure the jar first because you want your picture to be as tall as the jar, maybe about half an inch shorter to make it fit in. So if you don't have a digital picture, you could use a picture from a magazine or one that you already have. That'll work too. But you do want to make sure that you laminate the paper either with a laminator or with contact paper so that it doesn't absorb the water. Then you fill the jar with water, get your picture ready, print it out, cut out around the head. And when you take the picture, you also want to make sure that you get as close into the face as possible because that's what you want to see. And if you look this up on the internet, there's some other really cool stuff that you can do and to make it more of a 3D image. But I just chose the simple face picture. So I asked Mr. Toby from the Baxter Patrick Library on James Island if he wouldn't mind having his head in a jar, and he said he was totally game for that. So I got his picture, I blew it up, I trimmed it a little bit, and I put it in the jar. So once you get the water in, maybe 2 or 3 drops of green food coloring. I put some plastic spiders, I don't know if you can see them, some grass, fake grass to make it look like it's gross things are floating in there. And this picture has been in there for about 24 hours, so it lasts about a day. You could try keeping it in there. Sometimes the image will fade a little bit, which makes it even creepier. So we've got Mr. Toby here. Say hey to Mr. Toby's head, and then I did mine, which might even be creepier on that side. All right, stay tuned next week for another terrifying episode of Goosebumps and Gore.